Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today, for the first time on PGurus channel, we have a very distinguished guest. Welcome Kamalrukh Khan ji. Kamalrukh, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Kamalrukh, before I start this conversation, I want to give a little bit of background with your indulgence to our viewers as to why we are having this hangout. Kamalrukh is the wife of Wajid Khan, who recently passed away. And I'm first off, my condolences to you and your family. It must have been a very difficult time in your life when this was happening.
Thank you.
So, Kamalrukh, recently you've been in news for something that is not your strength. You're not a writer, but it's an article of yours that's making the news, and that too big time. It talks about anti-conversion law, which is okay for a half-educated or an educated or an uneducated woman lying in rural Indian, say Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, or a small town girl celebrating the law as she had been duped by someone hiding his identity, marrying her, and then forcing her into conversion. But it comes from a person who, what I would call, fits into the very definition of elite in the Indian context. I will read a couple of lines from your article to give viewers what this is all about. My name is Kamalrukh Khan, wife of the late music director Wajid Khan. My husband and I had a courtship spanning over 10 years before we finally got married. I am Parsi and he was Muslim. We were what you would call college sweethearts. Eventually, when we did get married, we married for love under Special Marriages Act, an act that upholds the right to practice one's own religion post-marriage. And this is why this current debate surrounding the anti-conversion bill is so interesting for me. I want to share my ordeal and my experience in an intercaste marriage. That in this day and age, a woman can face such prejudice, suffering, and discrimination in the name of religion is a complete shame and an eye-opener. So, Kamalrukh, so you and Wajid, where did you meet?
We met in college. I was, I think, about 16 or 17. He was 2.5, 3 years elder than me. So yes, we met at a very young age.
I see. And while you were, so you dated for 10 years. That's a long time. So during your dating period, was religion ever an issue?
It was not really an issue because I believe if Wajid was really that religious, he wouldn't have fallen in love with a girl who was out of his faith. So I don't think there was much of conversation regarding religion during those 10 years. But when it came to getting married, that's when the topic of religion came up. Yes.
Now, was your marriage blessed by both parents, both side parents, or was there friction there too?
Honestly, from my side of the family, there was the usual skepticism that you have when you marry somebody from a different faith. But over a period of time, my parents were fine. But there has always been resistance from his side of the family, purely because I opted on a marriage through the court of law rather than doing a nikah, which meant that I had to convert.
I've been part of this kind of situation about 30 plus years ago, 35 years ago, I think. I was in Hyderabad. And I knew a friend of mine who was Christian and he wanted to marry a Hindu. And both were from Kerala and both side parents were against it. And these two were living in Hyderabad at that time. And so we did this route. We went to Arya Samaj and they said, yeah, we can conduct the wedding, but the boy has to convert to Christianity. and somewhere else we went, and I think a church, and then they said no, the girl has to convert to Christianity. And then we figured out that Special Marriages Act, under that is where you need to do. And sure enough, about within a couple of weeks we got a date, and I was very happy to be one of the signatories, witnessing the marriage, and they have been living happily ever after. So I whenever I go to Hyderabad, I get in contact with him, and we talk about old times and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, in your case, I think the plot didn't quite turn out that way. Viewers, you must have heard Sajid Wajid's music. I mean, Dabangg and many other hits that they've given. So in your opinion, the music director that Wajid was, he was quite successful in his art, wasn't he?
Yes, yes,
And
he was.
so let's go back to the time you got married. So did you have some sort of a prenuptial arrangement in place, or was it just like, we're just sweethearts, we trust each other, we'll get married?
Yes, we're sweethearts. We trust each other. We get married. Having in retrospect, when I think about this, if I had to give advice to my daughter, I would probably tell her right now that if a guy brings up, the subject of religion at the time of marriage, dump him, because marriage has nothing to do with religion. You marry for love. You do not marry for religion. And for the last couple of years, I have seen what religion can do to you. If religion is so important to somebody, then they must marry within their faith. They must not marry outside their faith and then traumatize a girl or a boy to convert and then, ruin their entire lives. That should not be the case. If you're religious, then I think you should marry within your faith and be happy. Both of you be happy. And if you feel that there are no intelligent, beautiful women in your faith, and you feel you want to marry out of your faith, in that case, then you have to learn to respect that girl or man, whoever, as to their identity, whatever is their identity, whatever is their choice of religion or not, it has to be respected.
Kamalrukh, I have to tell you, the Parsis as a community are one of the most integrated into the Indian
Yes.
fabric. I mean, I'm saying this wholeheartedly. I've known so many friends, and
Thank you.
you guys are incredible. You're so successful, hardworking. You've been, I mean, you stand out like, wow, that's how people are. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it is something that blows my mind, that a person should go through so much trauma. But let me ask you a simple question. So when you got married, it was agreed that you were going to live separately, or were you going to go and live with your in-laws?
So since the topic of conversion arose, when we decided to get married, I, out of respect for Wajid, I respected that he was brought up in a certain way. And so I said, let's take 1 month off. Let's decide, you take a month off, you decide what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, even after 10 years, you want to be happy all your life. You don't want to look at it that, oh, I've been seeing you for 10 years, so I must now, the next step must be marriage. It can happen that it may not culminate into marriage. You will be sad for a couple of months, but life goes on. So I was very practical, and we gave each other 1 month, 1.5 months. And in those 1.5 months, we never discussed this issue. And after the time was up, he came up to me and he said, you're right. I think religion has caused enough problems in the world. And let's just do this. We've known each other too long, and let's just get married. And I said, yeah, we need to get married in a way where no religion is involved. I was willing to do a nikah because, I love rituals and I love doing all these cultural things. But nikah meant conversion. So I was against conversion. I am against anything forced. It could be forced relationships or forced, sex, forced friendship, forced emotion. Anything forced is not normal. Because if you see, even the law of nature, we are given free will. Free will is our basic birthright. You are given consequences for what. So if this is what you do, then X will happen. If that's what you do, then Y will happen. And then even nature gives you free will. So we are born with that fundamental, I would say, birthright. So
Absolutely.
forced was something which is not, it's not in my vocabulary. Forced.
Now,
Yeah,
so after the 1.5 month period when both did some introspection and came back, and
yeah,
you decided to get married under the Special Marriages Act,
correct.
then you started living with his parents, or were you living by yourself together?
No, so because of this whole issue where they didn't, they were not accepting me for my choice, I told Wajid it's always better to live amicably and far away than live together and live in turmoil. And he agreed. And we bought our own house. First couple of months were bliss, but then the pressure started building up from the family. And that's when the problem started.
Let me try and understand the life of a music director. You know, I'm just putting myself in his place. You know, you don't have a 9 to 5 job. You have like work in sporadic bursts. Suddenly you get a
Yes.
hit, you get a lot of work, and then you don't have that, and then you have a lot of spare time. So, how was lifestyle? You know, did Wajid keep regular hours? How was his work? Schedule?
So when I got married, Wajid was just starting up.
Hmm.
He had just started his career. He was still a struggling music director. I was working. I mean, I had to work. Otherwise, we would not have been able to run this house.
Of course.
So I was working. He was still struggling. So it was like any other regular young couple who gets married and who, tries to build a life together. Yes, because he was struggling, the hours were very erratic. I mean, there are times when he would come back really late, and that would mean like 3, 4 a.m. And even after he became famous, because of the recordings and because of the massive amount of work that he was doing, the timings were always irregular. So they never had any specific holidays like a weekend or a Sunday or a Saturday. There was no holiday. And whatever little bit time that there was where he could spend time, he always went to the family. It was never us.
Uh, so at least in terms of the work pressure, there wasn't any extra pressure on you two. You understood that one had to bring home the bacon and the other one was still trying to find his feet in the industry. I can completely
Yes.
understand that.
Yes.
So what happened? I mean, as time progressed, he started visiting his home whenever he had free time, and then it comes back from there, and then things started bubbling up. Is that what happened?
Yes, absolutely. Wajid was many good things, but he was not strong-willed. That was one of his biggest flaws. He was not strong here. And because I wasn't welcomed by the family, he chose to keep visiting them alone. And over a period of time, I guess he just got brainwashed by them, as to, this marriage is not legal, there is no nikah, हमारे में ये होता नहीं है. And eventually, I think that took a toll on the health of my relationship with him.
Describe us a little bit about Wajid's family. His parents are well-to-do. I mean, can you give us a little bit of an idea about this?
No, they are not educated. His father was, he's no more. His father was Ustad Sharafat Ali Khan. He was a very well-known tabla player in the industry. His mother was not working. And I think his grandparents also were some Padma Shris. His Nana was a Padma Shri. So when you think of it like that, they were from a classical family.
Actually, that is surprising, Kamalrukh, because the little I know about Hindustani music, that grew out of the area what is now Hubli Dharwar area. That is where the Hindustani music came, and then from there you had,
Yeah,
500-600 years ago I'm talking about. Then you had started
yeah,
having these gharanas, and the gharanas had their own
yes,
slightly different style of playing music. But the most important thing
yes,
in all this was the music was very, very tight with the southern style called the Carnatic music. There's not much difference between the two. In fact, the rag names are different, similar, and so on. So I find it a bit surprising that, because see, the music kind of drives the culture that's behind it too. You see,
yeah,
I know a lot of musicians who happen to be Muslim, but they know Sanatana Dharma very well, very well.
Yeah.
because you it comes in your composition, in the rag and things like that. Anyway, I just find that a little bit off key here, but I'm just going to read a little bit from your article. My simple Parsi upbringing was very democratic in its value system. Independence of thought was encouraged and healthy debates were the norm. Education on all levels was encouraged. However, post marriage, this same independence, education, and democratic value system was the biggest problem for my husband's family. An educated, thinking, independent woman with an opinion was just not acceptable, and resisting the pressures of conversion was sacrilege. So you felt that even after marriage, there was a constant pressure to say, get converted, get converted. Was that a feeling that you got?
Always. It was not a feeling, it was a reality, it was a fact. At any given point in time, I was taunted for not being Muslim enough. And I remember telling, Wajid's family once that what is being Muslim? Being Muslim is just being a good human being. What is, ultimately, what is every religion telling you? It basically tells you the same thing, tell the truth, don't lie, don't commit crimes. It's basically a lifestyle. And if I am a good human being, then I'm automatically every religion. So how does that not make me Muslim enough? But for them, it was that I had to change my name. I had to, change my attire. I could not wear jeans. I could not wear Western clothes. I had to wear, Indian outfits, shalwar kameezes. I cannot work. I was not allowed to work. And all this in the name of religion, which for me sounded very ridiculous because I don't think any religion will preach things like that.
Kamalrukh, it's a bit of a personal question, but I'm just going to
Yeah.
ask you, the 10 years that you quoted, you never went and visited his place just to see how things are or something like that?
Yes, I used to visit his place very often.
Hmm.
And even then, in those days, there were these subtle attempts to kind of change me, change, the way I dress, etc. And in fact, Wajid used to always tell me that when you come, you should always wear shalwar kameezes. And I said, no, that would be a lie. I want your family, who will ultimately be my family, to know who I really am. So I wore my regular, what I would wear at my home, and I would visit them regularly. And there was a lot of hostility, especially from his mom, his mother. But Wajid always stood up for me.
Hmm.
Wajid always stood up for me. And that is one of the biggest, honestly, my mother did question me even before I got married. She was very afraid. I was her daughter. I'm her daughter, and she was very, very afraid. And she said, these are people who've been treating you badly before you've gotten married. How sure are we that they would treat you better? And my whole confidence was, no, my husband has stood by me. Wajid has stood by me all this while. As long as he is by me, nobody can do anything. So it
So
was based on that principle that I got married.
if he stood by you, what changed after marriage? Is it just because, like you said, that he wasn't very strong in his mind that he started slowly yielding to this?
Yes, and he also once had mentioned to me that he felt that he would get married to me and slowly, slowly try and explain to me the validity of converting.
Hmm.
That was probably what he must have thought, that let me just get married to her, and after which I'll slowly, slowly start trying to convince her to convert. I don't think he expected me to be that strong-headed.
I see. And just for background, is Sajid married to Muslim?
No, he's married to a girl who was Maharashtrian who was converted. Her name was changed and she was converted. And so automatically it followed that, um, if, she put up this thing in the family that if you've converted me, then why is she not converted?
Okay, so there was an additional pressure. So Sajid was the elder one,
Yes.
or he was the one who got married first?
Sajid was the elder one,
I
and he
see.
got married first.
I see. I see.
Yes.
That is an additional pressure. I mean, that girl probably felt that, hey, I said okay, then why is she standing up and now saying no? And that might be another way that pressure was
But
Wajid's.
I wanted
Go ahead.
to sorry,
Go
I
ahead. Go ahead.
wanted to interrupt you here. As women, um, or as men, we need to stand by each other. If there is something that you have been through, For example, in this case, a conversion. Now, I don't know if it was forced or not, but there was a conversion. Then if there is somebody who takes a stand against it, I think if you've been through that already, your job would be to stand by that woman, that, okay, I have been through this, but let not, another woman go through that. So to say that, no, because I got converted, so you must also get converted, that's, I don't know. I don't buy that. It's like saying, if I am robbed in a train, you should also be robbed in a train. How does that even make sense? If I'm robbed in a train, what I will do is I will take precautions so that nobody else gets robbed in a train.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So as things started becoming more and more like Wajid became more hardliner, were there friends who tried to step in and see that, listen, guys, you two love each other. Why are you letting religion come in the way of love?
Yes, absolutely. Sonu Nigam is family for us. And on many, many occasions, he has explained to Wajid, and he has, he's told Wajid that you've got such an evolved wife, you've got two beautiful children, and you don't have to isolate yourself for religion. And on many occasions, he, has explained to Wajid. He has been a dear friend to Wajid and to me till the very end. In fact, even after Wajid passed over, and even during that whole period when Wajid was ill, Sonu Nigam was by my side. In fact, he was stuck in Dubai, but he regularly called us. He was very, very supportive. I think I attended Wajid's funeral thanks to him, because he was the one who explained to the family that you have to get in touch with Kamal. So yes, Sonu, another very, very. I mean, she's not even friend. She's my sister, Kajal. I've known her since I was 9. She was 10. And even right from that age, she's always looked out for me, and she still does to this day. She has been my rock. She has been my biggest support. She's helped me in all the practical levels, in emotional level. I mean, she's just been wonderful. So yes, these two definitely have helped us.
So let's look at some broad timelines, Kamalrukh. So you got married. Let's say it starts at that point. For
Yeah.
first few months, it was very good, and then things started, turning a little pear shaped. Perhaps I know it's a little hard to go back and play this. I'm trying to bring out what exactly went through, because I'm sure both of you must have tried to adjust regardless of what his external pressures were. I mean, sometimes, it must have felt odd for you that he was going and seeing his parents by himself, while you started having a family. What about the kids? Did the grandparents not want to meet the grandchildren?
I definitely did make an attempt to go and visit them, and I did. But each time I would go, after all these years of marriage, you were still treated as an outsider. You were still treated like the one who doesn't belong. My daughter was told. I remember my daughter was 7, and those days I had decided that we must visit Wajid's mother at least once a week, so that we kind of, because he was very upset that I wasn't visiting. He didn't understand my reasons for not visiting. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I can give this a shot. So we would go to visit her, or once in 10 days, sometimes once in, a fortnight. And I remember after a couple of visits, my daughter, she was about 7, I think, or 8. She refused. She says, no, I don't want to go there. And I was a little taken aback. I said, why would you not want to go there? You have your cousins and you're enjoying. And I was, kind of trying to get it out of her. And then on the second day or third day, she tells me that, Dadi said that I'm going to get another mother. And Cinderella had the second mother, and she was very, very cruel. And and the second mother happened only because the first mother died. And I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want you to die. And I was shocked. I could not believe that a grown woman could do this to a small child. And it never happened in front of me. It would always happen when she'd be playing in the room, etc. And she flatly refused to go. And so then I brought this to the notice of Wajid, and he obviously didn't believe it. He in fact fired her and told her that you're lying. And so she was in tears. And so that was it. After that day, my daughter never confided in her father. And then slowly these conversations started happening in front of me. Just leave her. This is not even considered a marriage. in us we can marry 4 times, so you can easily go and get married again, just dump her. So it was said in front of me, which I found extremely humiliating and disrespectful. So obviously I stopped going there.
Wow. So how long were you married before you decided to part ways?
I did not decide to part ways. He did. He left. So that whole pressure was constantly building up. And then after Arshi, about 6.5 years later, I had Rehan, and now this time it was a boy. So all the more reason you know, there was a lot of happiness that, oh, finally there's a boy, because Sajid has 2 daughters, and then I also had a daughter. So there was this boy in the family. And so now the pressure started building up even more. So there were a lot of tactics, I think my children are haram. I think we should do nikah. So all these arguments, fights, conversations kept happening. And then 2014, he filed for divorce, saying that either you convert or I file for divorce. And I said, okay, go ahead with the divorce. Because by that time, I think I'd had enough of this. And I honestly, Sree, I had a male child and a female child in the house. I didn't want my daughter thinking that it's okay to be forced. Just because you're a woman, it's okay to be forced into doing anything. And I didn't want my son thinking that it's okay to force women like that. There was an example I had to set. And moreover, I really think that when you have children, you just become a better person. You just become stronger. There's this amazing strength that you just kind of get internally, which I don't think I was that strong before my children as I am now. And it was very important for me to show them that, when you do the right thing, you do the right thing no matter what.
Now, that must have been a real shock for you because, first
Yes, I
off,
was devastated. I felt a sense of betrayal. I could not understand what hit me, because here is a guy who I've known all my life, and then to have to, just be. I was very let down, very let down.
see, you got into this relationship because he was your rock, and then
Yes,
suddenly you find that rock missing. I can understand what went through
yes.
your mind. I'm really sorry about that.
Thank you.
But so was his father's death during this time? When did his father pass away?
His father passed away, I think, 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
And then it made matters even worse, because honestly, between the mother and the father was a little bit more pragmatic than the mother. And he sometimes, when I spoke to him, he did see sense in what I was saying, but not the mother. So, I mean, I honestly feel that, there were so many things she could have done, but she didn't do because he always controlled her, you know. But once he had passed over, she was adamant. She was very clear that Wajid live with her. In fact, I had offered, I told her, I know he's your favorite son, and you're most welcome to come and live with us. You have the grandchildren, and it'll give you time to spend with your son as well as your grandchildren, and you can bond with us. And but she refused. She said, no, I want to stay in my house, and I respected that, because you need your privacy, etc. But then she threatened me openly, and she said, but I will make sure that I take your husband away. And what do you say to that?
See, I, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, Kamalrukh, and I'm really, I'm amazed at the strength and resolve you've shown. Right through this
Thank you.
period, you've held your job, right?
Yes.
How hard can that be? You have a husband who's keeping odd hours, you have 2 children, you have a full-time job to hold on to, then you probably have to make sure that the kids get up, get dressed, get, all
Yes.
the things that need to be done. And
Um,
he didn't
my
see all
job
these things. He didn't see all these things.
No, because he thought that I'm being stupid by working. He said, "Why do you need to work?" And I had quit during my pregnancy when Arshi
Of
was,
course. Yeah.
I was pregnant with her, and I decided to take leave from my company, but they said, "No, no, you don't take leave. We will send the entire stuff to your house, so the laptops and everything. All my office was set up in my house, and it was easy because that time it was just 2 of us, and we had a we had a lot of space, so it was easy. um, after, I think I waited for Arshi to be at least 2 years before I started my job again. And even when Rehan, by the time Rehan was born, so I was almost forced to give up for 2 years. I was forced to give up my job because he felt that I'm earning money, I'm famous enough. Why do you need to work? And at that point of time, it made sense because Rehan was really young. And I
Of
thought, okay,
course.
that would give me
Yeah.
more time to spend with the children, considering he's anyway an absentee parent. So let there be one parent, there. My priority has always been my children. So even as a clinical hypnotherapist, I consider myself to be a part-time clinical hypnotherapist because my entire focus is being a mother. So it's only around the children that I work. My timings are all worked out around their schedule. But yes, it's very hectic.
And once you parted company, at least let's say he left, how was the
Yeah.
relationship between the father and the children?
So Wajid kept leaving every second day. It was he like finally left in 2014 in March, but his mother always encouraged him. She would always say, "Nahi, idhar aa jao," like don't bother. Like
But
so,
this is playing emotional blackmail.
yes, yes,
Indian women are not, I'm sorry, not stereotyping at all. Emotional blackmail is something that is very powerful tool that is used.
yes, and I think as a parent, because when you know you have that kind of power over your child, it kind of creates more of a responsibility. I'm a parent today. I have a son today. I adore my son as much as I adore my daughter. But I know for a fact that this is not what I would do to my son. I would not definitely be taking him away from his happiness, which was with us, with his children. Having said that, I truly believe that he also needed to man up. He also needed to take a stand, which he didn't. So initially, the children had seen this all. They were in the house, they would see all this happening. So they knew, children are not stupid. They know, you think that they're young, but they know,
Oh, they
they
are
know
very
everything that's
perceptive. They are
going
very,
on.
very
Yeah,
perceptive. One small sense of tension between daddy and mommy, they know first. I mean,
yeah,
they are
yeah.
immediately like very quiet. You can sense that thing in them. I
Yes,
know
absolutely.
what you're saying. Yeah.
And I never tried to fake my emotions because I wanted the children to see that, okay, if this is our destiny, if this is what we have to go through, let them see what happens and then let them see how I sort it also. So it's a very important life lesson for them to be able to see that parents fight. You're not supposed to have this whole utopic relationship where everybody is happy and there are like heart balloons flying everywhere. Yes, there are going to be problems, and yes, you sort it out. You united and you sort it out. It's as simple as that. So I have never hidden anything from my children. I've never tried to be superwoman. I have shown my vulnerability to them, and I think they've seen all this. And I think in a way I have taught them how to be strong as well, how to be respectful as well, how to be accepting of other people, because they've seen what's happened to me, and they have also borne the brunt of having an absentee father. One thing is to say that their father is passed over, and another thing is to say that the father is alive and doesn't pay attention. So yes, the first few months he was very, very adamant and egoist, and he barely met the children, after which better sense prevailed. And of course, since it was a he had it was a court thing, so there were certain slots and timings given for him to meet the children, and I always left the house to leave them alone so that they could bond with the children. So yes, that did happen, but the last 2 years of the last 2 years prior to his death, I find he really made that attempt. Earlier, it was just like a mechanical thing because the court said it. But the last 2 years of his life, he realized what he had done. He apologized to us on various occasions. He spoke to the children, apologized to them for leaving them at such a young age. And I could see the attempts he made. We went out more often. He never lived with us though. He always lived with the mother, because by then he was stuck there. He kept saying, I can't leave my mother alone, etc., etc. And by the time it was already 4-5 years into me being separated, I don't think I was really ready to have him back after that kind of a gap. I thought it was better for the children to see the parents as friends. Whether he lives there or I live there, but I think it's more important for children to know that that their parents are amicable, that they like each other, that we're united in doing stuff for the children. In all practical purposes, I was, handling everything, starting from hospital visits to school to everything. mostly because Wajid didn't have time, and also because towards the end he was very sick. But he did make that effort. We traveled a lot together as a family. Um, so yes, that attempt was made, and moreover, there was closure for all of us. So even when he passed over, now when I talk to the children, they have this sense that, my father loved us. That, okay, whatever happened, he made a mistake, but he loved us. And that is so important for children to know that they are loved. And even for me, I knew that I was loved. I knew that he loved me dearly. He expressed it on, various occasions. And it really meant a lot. It takes a lot of guts to apologize, and it was gracious of him to do that. But I guess it was too late for me or him to kind of get back. So yes, we were very, very amicable towards the very end.
And that's very unfortunate that somebody sees the error of his ways, and then, but
Yes.
then God has a slightly different, script for him, and
Yes.
it's very, very sad that you had to go through this. So, Kamalrukh, how was the financial situation right through all this period? Were you, how did it feel? I mean, there must have been, was there any alimony once you parted ways? But before that, after that,
No,
I don't know what you
there's
would like
no.
to share, but feel free to tell me what you feel.
Yeah, so like I said, since it was a court case since 2014. The father is supposed to give a certain amount of maintenance based on whatever the children's expenses are. So that kept coming in as per the court order. But ultimately, there was no alimony because we never really divorced. No, towards, like I said, the last 2 years he refused to divorce me. In fact, it was the other way around, where I would tell him that, listen, this has been dragging too much. You have filed for divorce. Just finish it off, and nothing will change between us. We've always been amicable, but I don't want this sword hanging over my head. This constant, this thing in my head that there's a court case. But he was very clear. He says, no, I'm not divorcing you. He was very, very clear about it. And I told him on several occasions, then pull out the case, finish it off, like end it. And he was so bogged down by the family pressure that he gave them a different narrative that, yes, yes, I've been divorced. So when he actually passed over, they were very shocked to know that I wasn't divorced, that I'm still his wife.
So, as part of being married to somebody, then you get to get your rights for what was his property and his assets and things like that. How did that play out?
So that totally depends on the courts now. And I have full faith in the judicial system in our country. We have superb laws, and everything is laid down. So there's nothing to worry. But his family, his brother and his mother, etc., have actually usurped his entire properties, all his assets, everything, even his car. So we have nothing. We have no possessions. Initially the brother, the elder brother, called me and spoke to me for the first 10 days, I think, or few days, 2 weeks, I guess. He spoke to me very nicely, etc., etc. But after that, the minute I said, listen, let's start, getting down to the,
Brass
the
tacks. Yeah.
grassroots. Yeah. So honestly, I didn't even have time to grieve, because I remember he died on the 1st. We came back from the funeral at 1:30, and I already started receiving calls from his brother saying, are you divorced? Now that you're divorced, etc. So I was like, listen, I'm grieving. I've just buried my husband. I cannot have this conversation right now. And so calls started coming in every day. Finally, I think after 15 days, I thought to myself, I have to do this because these guys are constantly calling. Let me just finish this off. So I would have liked to have more time with my children, because we were alone. Remember, it was a lockdown. So we didn't have any help. It was just me and my kids handling this on our own. And I decided to just go forth and start talking about this. And when he asked me, what is it that you want, I said, everything that is owned by Wajid should go to my children. That is all I want. So you don't like my face, you think I have been estranged from your brother, etc., etc. You don't want, I don't care. Everything that is there, I want that you give to his children. His son is only 9. I have their whole education to look after. I have they have their whole lives ahead of them. And that's when the problem started, because then they just shut me down. They started acting up.
Uh, one of the things that people need to understand is, what is the fault of the children? Why should they suffer, they continue to suffer, because of what happened in the parents' life. I mean, they
Yes.
definitely deserve to get what they deserve. I mean, if he was with you, and looks like from what I'm understanding, he was sort of having this double persona. He was married to you at home, and he didn't want to go through the divorce stuff. But at least from his mother's side, he kept telling them, "No, we are divorced. No, we are divorced." That's a very, very sad way to, so you characterize him that he wasn't really strong. He couldn't stand up for
Yes.
saying, "This is what it is.
Yes.
Look, I this is my family now." I mean, you see, what happens is when somebody gets married, right, there's a certain feeling, this is my responsibility, I am
Absolutely.
responsible,
Yes. Yes.
right? And somewhere there is, I see that, that he probably yielded to pressure. So I had an important question that I forgot to ask you, but I'll ask you now. Did Sajid and his family also stay with his mother?
No,
So they were separate.
his family, they were separate. Initially, they did stay, I think, for a couple of years, 7, 8 years. After which they separated.
I
Only the
see.
youngest brother stayed with the parents, and I think even after some time they separated.
So Wajid kind of got stuck that it is my responsibility to take care of my mom or something like that. I mean, was that the situation, like when his mom contacted COVID, and
Yes,
probably it spread to him, and that probably
yes,
made things go pear shaped much faster.
yes, yes, absolutely. It was very tragic because I remember I used to visit him every day in the ICU. I always preferred to meet him in the ICU rather than going to the room because then his mother would be sitting there and, like being ignored. And it was really uh, not a good thing for me. So I would go to the ICU. In fact, we used to have dinner together. As in, I wouldn't eat, but I would give him company. So I knew his dinner time would be 9:15 or 9:30. So I would try my best to reach on time. Sometimes he would eat later because I hadn't reached. So towards the end, I even offered to stay with him. I wanted him not to stay in that hospital. I wanted him to shift to a better hospital because his brother had put him in this god-forsaken, far-off hospital. And I was very unhappy with that. And I wanted to put him in a better hospital. And I was trying to convince him. And he, by that time, was so ill and so. I think he had kind of given up by then.
Uh,
But she never allowed me to stay there. I mean, as in, it's not like she said it to me directly, but he kept saying that, her, she won't, she'll never budge from here. And because they are uneducated, it kind of made matters worse because, when somebody lives with you in the hospital, it's not for the company. It's checking the medicines and, there's a lot of other stuff that you have to do and which she was not able to do. So I did offer many times, and his concern was the children, and I said, oh, they live with my mom. They get along like a house on fire. Like for them, they would love to live with my mother. Don't worry, we'll sort this out. But he didn't let me stay with him, and eventually, when the lockdown happened, it didn't really happen suddenly. It was a very gradual process where people started wearing masks and all that. So 1 week before the lockdown, I expressed my concern. I said, look, my body will be able to take it, but you are in ICU. I don't think it's a good idea for me to keep visiting you like this because God forbid if you have to catch anything. And he was very sad that I was not visiting him anymore. But nevertheless, he was in touch with us on WhatsApp video. At least 3 4 times a day we'd get phone calls from him. He would be very sad. He would be distraught on seeing his children. He missed his children dearly. He regretted it deeply that he had what have I done? I've messed my life. Shit, I should have listened to you. And it was tragic for us. And at that point of time, all we could do is just listen to him. We could not do anything because it was the lockdown, and there was nothing we could do. All we could do is support him, and that's what my children did as well.
yeah, it's very, very, very sad. I have a question. Your article has triggered a massive debate, especially about the need for anti-conversion law. And I'm assuming that this anti-conversion law, whenever it becomes, applicable, it should be applicable for the whole country, and
Absolutely.
it should also be able to specify how people from different faiths are going to lead their lives, assuming they want to marry and stay,
Yes.
they still be able to respect their own and each other's religion. What are your
Absolutely.
thoughts on the anti-conversion bill? Supposing somebody were to tell you, okay, I'd like you to give some inputs on how this should be drafted based on your life experience. Perhaps you can give us like 5 suggestions on what it should be definitely covered in this.
So you know, people say that, listen, there's a provision. No, if two people are of different faiths, there is a provision called Special Marriages Act where you can maintain your religion. And I agree, there is a provision. But what happens? I am a product of that. I have married under the Special Marriages Act and I was still forced into conversion. My life, my children's lives have been ruined over what? Over religion. So, what do you do about it then? Where is the law then to say, where can I report this to? What can I say? What can I do? Had this law been applicable at that time, I could have done so much. Maybe my family would still be with me. Maybe Wajid would still be alive. I don't know. So it's a
Yeah,
very
these.
important.
I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
think
Please
it's
finish your thought. Finish your thought. Yeah.
so. I think it's really important that one thing is you have a law, and then you have an implementation of that law to say that no, you cannot. Like I said earlier, there is nothing forced can be a good thing. If you say that rape is a crime, why is rape a crime? Everybody has sex. Then why is rape a crime? Because it is forced. So similarly, conversion should not be a problem. If it's done by your own free will, go ahead, become Buddhist, become Muslim, become whatever you want. But when you force it, then it's a crime. So I have something against anything forced. You cannot invade my privacy by forcing me to do anything. And yes, we have all the laws in place against all other crimes except conversion. So let there be a law against conversion as well. Forced
You,
conversion.
you actually hit the nail on the head. There are a few states where there is an anti-conversion law in place. But see,
Yes.
I had this very interesting conversation with an American lady called Christine Fair. She spent a fair amount of time in Pakistan and in India. And she told me one horrible, horrible truth that I could not, rebut. What she said was, in any relationship, in any situation where, like for example, we were talking about love jihad, where the
Ji.
girl gets duped into marrying and then converts, even converts willingly, but
Yeah.
once she decides to change her future and comes back, her own parents are not willing to accept her. I'm not saying this happened in your case is totally
Yes.
different. I'm talking about an economically challenged person who's stuck in
Yes.
this kind of a relationship. And she said, look, you yourself discriminate against a girl when this thing happens. Now, in an when you have this anti-conversion law, what happens then? I mean, isn't there a need for the society also to change its mindset that whatever happens, somebody made a mistake, they realize their mistake, they need to be accepted for what they are.
Absolutely. And who are these parents who don't accept their child back? I mean, who are these parents?
No,
Why
no,
would you do
not
that to
parents
your
will.
own child?
Parents will. I'm sorry, parents will. It is just that she cannot remarry, is what I was trying to say. You know,
Ah, okay.
that is where I'm saying the problem is. That she, even though that the man to woman ratio is so horribly skewed today, despite the fact the girls who come back, there is a big movement now in Kerala to turn this thing around, to educate. This is going on. I'm just hoping that people who watch this conversation say that if somebody realizes they made a mistake, whether it is boy or girl, it doesn't matter. We need to have it in our heart to forgive and look forward. That's what I meant.
It's very interesting you said the word mistake. When women convert, and if they're forcefully converted, or if they are blackmailed into converting, or sometimes there's this whole emotional thing happening where they have to convert. It's, according to me, it's, they do it in an intention of love, that okay, I love my husband, and I'm looking at it from my point of view, being a therapist. I'm not looking at it from any other angle. As a woman, you want to stay with your husband and you're so besotted with him, and you think, okay, chalo, I will, she doesn't foresee the trauma. She's very naive, as I was, and you don't foresee it, and you think, okay, ye ho jayega. And what I want to say to those women is exactly this. what I've told my own daughter, that the minute a man doesn't respect your ambition, the minute he says stop working after you get married, or the minute a man doesn't respect your choices or doesn't respect who you are as a person, he does not deserve you. You just dump him like a hot brick. Simple. Because there is no place. You do not have to change for anybody unless you want to. Unless you feel that there is something within me that I feel is, not working to my advantage, and I think I would want to, grow further in life, and therefore I want to change it. That's a whole spiritual angle to it, which is great.
Right.
But to be changing or to be forced to change through any emotional or any other means, no. I think this is my message to all the girls there. Leave him.
So let's take a look at the industry that Wajid worked in. Let's set aside Sonu because he was a personal friend, Sonu and his wife. The rest of the industry, I'm looking for one tweet, one Facebook post in support of Kamalrukh, who probably met a lot of the movers and shakers. After all, Salman Khan was part of Dabangg. And Wajid was a music director in, I think, first, or I don't know if he was also in part two, I don't know.
All three parts, yes.
All three parts. So he has contributed. So how is, the industry, I'm just shocked that the industry has completely turned blind to this. Has Salman Khan tried to reach out to you to offer even, words of help, and how has his reaction been?
No, he's not reached out to me. But Kajal has. Kajal, like I said, is my sister. She's my dearest friend, sister, guide. We are very close, and she has helped me tremendously. I think you have to choose your cause. Each one, when we live our lives, we have to choose our causes. Kangana, I believe, has put up a tweet. I don't know her personally, but I believe she knew Wajid. So she has put up a tweet.
That's very good to know. I mean, Kangana, is one of those people which I can't figure out if she's outside looking in or inside looking out in terms of the Bollywood ecosystem, because she has fought. She has stood there and she has fought the system, whatever be its quirks and things like that. And that takes a lot of guts, by the way. This is a very closed loop system, very, very closed loop system.
Yes.
And that takes guts. And I tip my hat to her. It's really, really, I'm trying to figure that, they make these movies where everything is rosy, everything is hunky-dory. There is almost every second movie love story is, some sort of friction like this. But at the end, in the movies, the parents always, and the parents and the children, they always live happily ever after. And yet here in real life, that doesn't happen. And I'm at a, I'm trying to still get some, feeling. Was it if Wajid realized towards the end of his life that he had erred, that he should have done something differently from what he did, then did he not say that to his mother and say, look, you've had enough, you've ruined my life enough, I want to live my life my way? Was there any such confrontation? Do you know if it happened?
No, not that I know of, no.
Okay.
They haven't met me and my children for the last 8 years. There have been no birthday phone calls for my children, nothing. And whatever pictures or whatever, that they have seen are through, Wajid was here regularly and they used to click, the children and him used to click pictures and videos together and all the fun they had. So he would probably go home and show them that. So that's how they even knew what the children looked like. Other than that, they never ever, even after his death, we made an effort. I told the children that, they are your father's family and we need to make an effort to get in touch with them. But there was no reciprocation from their end. Even at the funeral, we were ignored. It was just Sajid who was just, that fake cordiality because I was there. But other than that, nobody from the family approached us or, even came to the children. This is a tough time for the children. They've just lost their father. Rehan is only 9. For him, when he came back from the funeral, just to give you an idea as to what I had to deal with, when we came back from the funeral, he opened the, we have these bunch of pictures, that we stored in the attic, and they opened up all the pictures, and he kept asking me, when did this happen and when did this happen, and we were explaining it to him, and he said, why don't I remember? And I said, that's because you were just 1 year old, or that's just because you were 2 years old. So then on the third day of his father's passing over, he took all the pictures and he stuck them everywhere. And I said, why are you doing that? He says, I don't want to forget him. Because if I was 2 and I'm 9 now, I've forgotten everything. What if I turn 19, 10 years later? I will forget him completely. I don't want to forget his face. And so his online school, the laptop had a little picture on the side, and his pencil box had a little picture of his father inside. He was paranoid that I have nothing, because Sajid did not give my children any of his possessions. My daughter asked for her father's specs. She said, please give me my father's specs. I want something to remember him by. They were refused. She wanted, the videos and the pictures from his mobile. They refused that. They said, this is not your phone, and I have gifted your father this phone. Now it belongs to me, and very petty. And so there was nothing really. My son asked for a t-shirt, and then, it's like there was nothing that they parted with. That is pure evil. You do not do this to minor children. You do not do this to anybody. And so he was paranoid that he has nothing to remember his father by. He had nothing like tangible that he could remember his father by. And so I had to work on him for over 1.5 months just to, calm him down and to tell him that, Papa is in your head. You just have to close your eyes and he's here. Or you just have to look in the mirror. You have his smile. You have his eyes, and somebody has his nature. And so he's within you anyway. You are his baby. So, but you see how traumatic that could have been for children to have to go through this. Just because of something that I did, where I said, I will not convert, that I took a stand. I was strong enough to say that, no, this is not something I will want to do, and you cannot force me to do it. So because of that, it is coming out on my children now.
So on the court case, where do things stand now? And see, he was an intellectual property. His music is his intellectual property. Probably he has more movies planned, and whatever the income, there is a trickle that happens over many, many years.
Yes.
That's going to happen. So where do things stand in the court right now? Have you had any sessions with the judge? Has a judge talked to you yet?
And
okay.
Being court cases, I would not want to comment on it because everything is sub judice.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm assuming as per the law of the land,
right.
Whatever belongs to the children, whatever belongs to the wife, I respect whatever the court decides.
Right. So since you're not divorced, you're like, you're as if you are married. So you should be entitled to everything under the law.
Yes, absolutely, as per the law of the land. Yeah.
Right. I can say one thing, Kamalrukh. We all sing this song, Twameva Mata, Pita Twameva, Twameva Bandhu, Sakha Twameva. That's what you've been for your children. You've been their mother, you've been their father, you've been their friend, and probably philosopher and guide. And I really hope that God gives the strength for you to continue doing this and bring them up. I can see from this conversation, the children are already incredibly mature beyond their years. And I think you've put them down the right path, and I'm sure they'll turn out to be excellent children. And I wish you all the best. And I'm hoping that we will have another conversation sometime in the near future where we talk about other things. I mean, just let me know. I'll be more than happy. We can have another conversation. And you've been in, I can understand how difficult it would have been for you to go through this and take this time out to, share your thoughts and feelings with our viewers. And I pray that God gives you strength, and I hope that things work out well. And like I said, we're always here for you, and you've just earned a new friend, and I'm glad that I could.
Thank you so much.
Do what little I could in my capacity. Thank you very much, and namaskar.
Thank you so much. Thank you.